Hey YouTube, what's up? Thanks for tuning in. Part 5 of my Capo CUB1 build series, and I'll start with the probably coolest thing you've ever seen in a 1 to 18th truck. Check this out. Second gear, first gear, second gear, first gear, under full load, no problem at all. Second gear, 2-speed shifting mechanism works awesome. At least I personally do not know of any other micro truck with 2-speed. The WPL ones are far larger, and the small ones do only have this electrical dual rate-wise different speed controls, but with mechanical speed control 2-speed, I personally do not know any other truck. But that's by far not the coolest thing. Check this out now. We are now on second gear, open diff, and now I go to first gear, Opa. Close diff, and I will go back to second gear, open diff. And let's change to first gear, second gear, first gear, closed diff, second gear, open diff, second gear, first gear, closed diff, second gear, open diff. How cool is this? And this works awesome. So wow, wow, wow. But it was super complicated. I did more or less finish the chassis build now, and I ran into a lot of troubles and difficulties. So I have to complain a lot. But now it's so cool, I want to show it to you again. First gear, closed diff. Second gear, open diff. How cool is this? First gear, closed diff. Second gear, open diff. Wow, 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 wow. So let's take the positive things. That's so cool. Wow. And now we'll start to complain about a lot of things. First of all, that's only a test setup. I simply use the China cheapo ESC for testing. Of course, I will use a Modellbauregler DE ESC, one of my awesome ESCs. Do not know yet if I will use the larger ES1215 or the smaller ES126 RW. One of those will be in my Capo CUB1. That's only for testing on 2S now. Second positive thing, my motors from Banggood did already arrive last week. That's the G-High motor, and the other one is the Machfit motor that's in the car already now, in the truck. 11 days from order to my door, from China to Austria. Wow. But those do only have 800 and 900 RPMs, I guess. And it's not flawlessly. But before installing the motor, I made some motor tests. I will show those to you now. That's the Machfit 30 to 800 RPM 12 volt 16G A050 motor, and this one with the white cap is the G-High CHR 16G A17 2010D 12 volt 900 RPM motor. So this one should give 800 RPMs at 12 volts, and that one 900 RPMs. And for measurement of RPMs, I use this cheapo. Works awesome, and even without reflective stickers. So we will see what those motors bring and which one I will choose for my Capo CUB1. I will test from 1 volt to 13 volt or 12.6 volt using my small lap power supply to power the motors. Let's start with the Mach-Fit motor. 1 volt, 52 RPMs, 2 volts, 115 RPMs, 8.4 volts full 2S LiPo, 525 and 12 volts, 752 and 12.6 volts full 3S LiPo, 790 RPM. And now the small G-high motor. 1 volt, 61, 8.4 volt full 2S LiPo, don't move, this G-high motor shows more vibrations. 8.4 volts, 600 RPMs exactly, and 12.6 volts full 3S LiPo, 876. And you can see the rounds per minute on different voltages. I show it to you here now on this graph. Don't know if in the G-high maybe there was a mistake in my measurement at 8.4 volts. However, the Mach-Fit ran much smoother, and that's why I installed the Mach-Fit into my Capo CUB1 and not the G-high motor. Both will be quite slow on 2S, and on 3S that should be okay. But I'm still waiting on my 1500 RPM motor from AliExpress. Don't know when it will arrive. And I got meanwhile the data of the motor that's for the Capo CUB1, and you see those here, and that's around 1800 rounds per minute if I calculate those 1 to 30th gear and 22,000 rounds per minute at 12 volts. My noble complaints. And my 1500 RPM motor should be good too, or I will run those on 3S. But I ran into some troubles before I had this tiny 200 Orlando motor in my Capo CUB1, and it ran quite nicely. But now check this out, and I don't know if it's a problem of the motor. I hope it's a problem of the motor. Try to climb this small step on second gear, no chance. It will not climb this step on the second gear, and on first gear, even on first gear, it does struggle really hard. So probably servo noise only on first gear. We'll see if I can adjust this. Probably this motor is too weak. That's about the same motor as this one. Looks the same. Those are 180 motors, as are in all those CR18s and Katana and whatever. And I'm really surprised that this motor is so weak. So I will probably have to change the motor again. And changing the motor, if you do not have the motor when starting the Capo CUB1 build, Installing the motor is one of the first steps. Wait till you get the motor. This was absolutely horrible to change the motor. Super, super complicated. It was such a lot of work. The motor sits here on the plate, and this plate cannot be taken off if you wouldn't take off all the other stuff too. Finally, I ended up in taking out everything, the whole gearbox. Of course, all the settings of steering and shifting had to be readjusted after this, and it's really super, super complicated. I again had to disassemble the drive shafts, take off the drive shafts. I did take off nearly everything, and it was really a lot of work. And for the drive shafts, I did complain that Capo doesn't say anything about how to mount the drive shafts, because they do only have a simple 5mm pin inside. And I found this now on one of the foam boxes. You can see this. That's the only written manual you get with the Capo, a sticker to place a 1.2 by 5mm pin in the drive shafts. I did already complain about the drive shafts. I'm not a big fan of this system with the O-rings. You see, I do have a shrink tube here. Here it is, for example, and I will use shrink tube to secure those O-rings, because I'm sure the pins will come out if you drive this truck hard. I don't know why they didn't use a screw for securing the drive shafts here. There are small drive shafts. There are small drive shafts in the same size, for example, for the Hobby Plus trucks, the shorter ones for the 1 to 24th. Those are, I guess, the longer ones for the 1 to 18th. And all those use screws to secure the drive shafts, and not this really nasty pin O-ring thing, because taking off the drive shafts and putting them on with those O-rings is a pain. And taking off the whole system again, you have 3 pins here in the center and on the other side. On each drive shaft, they fall out all the time. It's really, really nasty. The quality of the drive shafts seems to be awesome, but this pin O-ring system, why did they do this? I don't understand this. Next super positive and negative thing, the shocks. The shocks look awesome, work awesome. They are not oil filled. Capo tells you to put some solid grease inside, and I simply put white grease inside. But they work really quite nice. There are different springs, harder and softer ones for rear and front shocks, but mounting of the shocks was a pain. A big pain again. And the reason for this, first, a little complaint, you do use 2 O-rings on each side, lower and upper side, for mounting the shocks, and I'm sure someday we will lose those O-rings again, but the O-rings are not my reason for complaining. The reason for complaining again are the screws, the hardware of the Capo CUB1. I did already complain about the M1.6 screws, the socket head screws, because normal 1.5mm hex drivers won't fit. And now I have to complain about the M2 screws. The M2 hardware coming with the Capo. You will mount those shocks with M2 screws, but those are not the screws coming with the Capo. It was impossible for me to get the M2 screws of the Capo coming with the Capo kit through those ball cups, or however those silver parts are named. I wasn't able to do it on 1 of 8. And then I thought, what's up? You can see this picture here. Of course, I tried first to press them through. Then I tried to screw them in. And after removing, because it was super hard, you see I made a thread with the screw. And then I checked the diameter of the M2 hardware of the Capo CUB1. And all the M2 screws coming with the Capo CUB1 do have more or less exactly 2 millimeter in diameter. And then I checked all the other M2 screws I have. I do have a ton of different types here, and all of those do have more or less 1.9, 1.9 and a little bit millimeter in diameter. And those also worked with those ball cups or ball mounting cups. So I used my own hardware to mount the shocks. 8 screws. I checked all M2 screws of the Capo CUB1, and all of those are about 0.1 millimeter wider than all the other M2 screws I do have. So I think that's a problem of the Capo CUB1 hardware again. And not only the M1.6 screws are nasty, also the M2 screws. On the other parts it will work. You will need quite a lot of force to screw the screws into place, but it will work. But it did not work at all in the shocks. And then we come to the next, that's the steering. And again, the problem, the ball ends. Capo tells you in the manual, if the balls go hard into the ball cups, you should simply press them in and out several times, but this did not work at all. And helicopter ball end pliers, the large ones, do not work, of course. They are too large for the Capo CUB1, but those micro ball end pliers from Hobby King Turnigy for micro helicopters, they did really come handy. And I did already tell you in the last video that all the connections of the links do go really, really hard. I didn't see that as a big problem in the truck, but I did see it as a problem in the steering links, in those 4 rod ends, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I tried to run them on a drill for a lot of time with the balls inside, which didn't nearly not help at all. Then I used my much faster Dremel tool Proxon and ran it on full speed, so it was, the rod ends got really warm, but still not super smooth. Then I tried to polish the metal balls inside a little bit, still didn't work. Then I made a helicopter trick and I scratched one of the balls with a blade and put it inside and ran it on high speed with my Dremel tool, but they are still not super smooth, so pooh. And then I tried to use, they are 3mm balls, I tried to use 3mm balls of a helicopter I have, and they clipped in and moved freely, smoothly, perfect. So again, a problem of the hardware. Those metal balls, ball joints, are a little bit too large for the plastic rod ends. And I ran the balls inside the 4 rod ends of the steering for really a lot of time to make them smoother, still not perfectly smooth. And here they are really going hard. This was the third thing I had to complain. I don't know, but yeah, that's so cool. Did I show this to you already? First gear, second gear, open diff, closed diff. So wow, 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 how cool is this? And now let's come to the shifting mechanism for gears and for the diff lock, unlock. Shifting mechanism for gears works absolutely awesome, and installation is not a problem at all. Super, super, super. And the shifting mechanism for the diff locks, there is no manual. In the video they give you as manual, they write go to Capo website for instructions. No, not to Capo website, go to Facebook Capo site and you will find a video. I went to Facebook Capo site and I did not find any video. So you have to do it as you think, but it's not a problem in the shifting mechanism for the diff in the front axle. You can see here this kind of hose out of metal, and inside there is the wire running. That's this wire. You will ask yourself, why do I have a Capo shifting wire in my hand now? Yeah, I will explain it to you now. So no problem at all in the front. Installed it on second gear with free diff, and here's a screw, a nut screw. Put the wire here through and mount it, no problem, perfect, and it even worked perfectly, but not in the rear axle. You see the hose here, the wire inside, but that's not the original wire. And here has the wire to go through this. That's a kind of tube with a screw inside, and this tube is free spinning. It's rotating, so it's not mounted, not fixed, not in fixed position. You can turn it. And if you put the wire here through the opening for the wire in this tube and then want to put the screw inside and screw it inside, this will always turn. And this was quite horrible, because of course you have to do it when everything is already mounted, because you have to adjust the shifting mechanism. But using small pliers here does not help. It's not possible to get really in. And when you do this, when I did it for the very first time, I simply used the screwdriver and screwed. This turned and the wire was bent. Okay. The wire was bent. I tried to bend it back again, make it straight again, and I tried it several times and I pulled, and when disassembling the truck again because of changing the motor, the wire came out of the axle. I had to open it again, and I tried to make the wire smooth again, straight, because it did already have some edges here, because you will always turn this tube. I tried to hold it with this tool here and then screw it. It will always turn. It was more or less a pain, but finally I succeeded, and the shifting mechanism also worked in the rear axle, and I was happy and shifted, of course, and then, boah, that's the wire. It broke. So the wire broke here on this position, and I was super, super angry, of course. And this wire does have 0.4 millimeter in diameter, and I didn't find such a wire. I did find copper enameled wire of 0.5 millimeter, and I did find this fishing line with 0.6 millimeter. I bought this once for winch, and then I tried this shifting line and it worked. So 0.6 millimeter will also work to link it to the shifter inside the axle, and it will easily and perfectly work in this tube, and it will also work here. So I mounted this metal rope or wire, stainless steel line, and I made the wire super long, so it was about at least to this position, and then I pulled as hard as I could so that this part, when I try to mount and turn the screw inside, stays straight. And then I screwed this screw in and mounted and fixed the wire that way, and this worked. And afterwards I clipped off the wire, and now, as you see, it works awesome. But this is super complicated, and it was really not easy. You wouldn't see this. Assembling the truck is easy, but you wouldn't see this tiny tube as such a big problem. So if you have a capo, take care, because if you use the normal wire and then turn this, there will be an edge. Noble complaints. Like this, and then again and again and again, and I thought it will work, and then the wire broke during shifting. So take care. So really take care. I don't know if I did something wrong. There is no manual from Capo. How could you fix this in position, because everything has to be assembled to fix, to hold this tube, to screw the screw in. I do not know any other solution. Yes, you can use a tiny pliers. Those are tiny pliers. You won't really get in, those do not have a grip. You can try, but you won't get to this tube. And if you go in center position, you will of course bend the wire and it will break again. So Capo, this was no good, but mine does work now. Did I show you already the coolest stuff you've ever seen? Locked diff, open diff, locked diff, open diff. So we have to see the cool things. Super cool. There are more cool things. What I really do like is the large room that's available. You can adjust this for battery, receiver, ESC. So that's a ton of room, and it will be easily possible for me to mount. I did already have the receiver here in this position and the ESC aside, and light controller, I don't know. I will probably mount to the body. And here's a ton of room for batteries, and of course you can use all those small batteries. And I tried even this 3S 1000 milliamp hours SLS, a helicopter, one of my helicopter batteries, will fit. Wiring will be maybe, don't know yet, the problem. And I even did check it with the body on and including interior, so this will fit. That's quite awesome. The smaller ones, I do have quite a couple of 800 and 850 cube 3S lipos for my Oxy 2 from SLS and Turnigy, but they are a little bit too high. And I have this single super old 3S from a 9 Eagles helicopter. This would fit. However, there are a ton of options for batteries, and that's really super cool that there is such a lot of space. If you want to ask me what's with the canopy? No, that's no helicopter. What's with the body? Body is absolutely awesome. I did already weather it a little bit and try to paint but I will make a special video, a separate video for the body, including I did already test drivers, and of course I will mount the Lambo SRC light controller, and this will be a separate video. So that's the end for this video now. Did I show you already the coolest thing I've ever seen in a 1/18 truck? Check this out. Locked diff, open diff, locked diff, open diff. How cool is this? Wow, wow, wow. And did I already tell you about the problems I had? Recapitulation, shocks work awesome. Screws, M2 screws won't work. You will need other M2 screws. O-rings, not the best I've seen. M1.6 screws won't work with the normal 1.5mm hex driver. Rod ends are probably nice, but the hardware, the balls for the rod ends are a little bit too large. They go super hard, and it's super hard to make them smooth. Steering angle is good, but you see, I did already open it here, this rod end a little bit, and there's still an angle, so I will have to adjust this. Drive shafts look awesome. I'm not a fan of this O-ring stuff, and 3 pins per drive shaft. Otherwise, quality of the axles and all this, awesome truck, but not an easy build. And now I have the big problem with the motor, because I have to test a different motor again. So I can either test this GHI motor, which doesn't run as smooth as the Mach-Fit motor, but maybe it's stronger, or I have to wait, or I will wait for my 1500 RPM motor, which I probably can use then on 2S. I don't know, maybe I try to unmount the gearbox of the Mach-Fit motor and use a different 180 motor. Didn't think that I will run in this problem, but it's unbelievable. It's not able to climb this tiny step on second gear, and on first gear not easily. I don't think that's a problem of the super cheap ESC. I think that's a problem of the motor. That's it for this video. In the next video you will probably see everything of the chassis assembled with awesome speed controller, probably the AS1215RW from Modellbauregler.de, hopefully with a good motor. Still not sure if I will keep this Hobby King servo here. You see it's silent now. Of course I tried to adjust it with endpoint adjustment, but on first gear it makes some noise and this doesn't stop. So next video, probably everything, including wiring, including battery, including motor of the chassis, or even the video about the body. I did already assemble it and test it around a little bit with lights, and so far so good. Did I already show you the probably coolest thing you've ever seen in a 1/18th truck? Closed diff, second gear open diff, first gear closed diff, second gear open diff. How cool is this? That's it for this video. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope to see you in the next video. I'll be back.